Settle back now, content, comfortable, well-fed, and ready for some fine entertainment. Is everybody happy? Then let's go. It's showtime.
Welcome to the Cuse Militia Podcast with those two unapologetically biased, orange-blooded homers, Sean and Joe.
Most bullshit thing I've seen in 30 years.
What's up, Cuse Nation? Thanks for tuning in to the Cuse Militia Podcast with Sean and Joe. If you like it, please share it. The universal handle for the socials is at Cuse Militia. Go there, join the militia. We are the only Syracuse sports podcast centered around giving you, the fans, a voice. So welcome. Happy Thursday. And we're back.
Yes, sir. Thirsty Thursday.
Thirsty Thursday. Thursday's a good day. Thursday's a good day to do this. You know, you go heading into the weekend, heading into the Memorial Day weekend. 4-day. Are you off tomorrow?
Yeah. Nah, I work 4/10s.
Oh, no one likes
I got a
it.
couple meetings, but I don't know. I just work from home. Nothing crazy. A couple extra hours.
Oh,
you know.
Look at you. Look at you.
Good for you.
Oh, good for you. So, anyway.
Oh, good for you. And how was it?
How's it going to be?
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. I'll tell you after the 4-day weekend.
Yeah, well, save it. How about that? So, we got a little bit of everything. A little bit of everything. You know,
Yeah.
we'll even talk off the cuff a little bit. So, just a news show. Nothing real crazy has happened, but we're glad to be back. Look, obviously, you know that Armchair Media helps distribute this show around to all of your ears. So I would like to take a second, give them a shout out. Armchair is a collection of 50 plus podcasts, including ours, obviously. And what they try to do is localize the sports world a little bit more. You can go there. You can find more than just the NCAA. There's hockey, there's baseball, there's football, there's daily podcasts, there's weekly podcasts, there's sporadic podcasts like ours. You can go there. You can check them all out. And we've been with Armchair since, what, Joe? Probably about 2 years at this point, and we've enjoyed growing our show with them to you. We thank you for helping grow our show. We thank Armchair for helping grow our show as well. Starting June 1st, BetOnline will serve as the title sponsor for Armchair as well as this show. This will open up some possibilities to develop some merchandise lines as well as potential live host events once we return to a sense of normalcy. But truth is, we do have a merchandise, but I'm the only one that buys off of it. I just created merchandise so I could buy it cheap, but hey. Anyway, obviously we've got NASCAR starting back up, UFC started up, golf is coming back, so BetOnline has hundreds of games and events to bet on. They have live simulated sports events as well. There's a $10,000 Madden Bracket Challenge you can enter for free. Visit betonline.ag on your computer or mobile device and check out the action. BetOnline is your online wagering solution. Now, we will have some sort of promo code or some sort of deal going on. So starting June 1st, we will have that, but you can go, you can check it out. In addition to BetOnline coming aboard, Armchair will serve as the host network for the world's largest skateboarding podcast, The 9 Club, hosted by professional skaters Chris Roberts and Kelly Hart. The 9 Club talks every week with the biggest names in skating. They're on social media at The 9 Club. To see all things Armchair, search Armchair Media wherever you get your podcasts. Also, check us out on Armchair's website, armchairmedianetwork.com, and the handle for their social is at Armchair Media. Armchair Media, those who can do, those who can't take a seat, like us. That's right. So, Joe, students are going to be able to return back to...
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of June 1st.
Yeah. Students are going to be able to return back to campus June 1st for voluntary workouts. So that's good. I mean, we lost a lot. We lost quite a bit, but if you're on Twitter and all this, you know that these guys, if you follow the recruits and the players, they're doing their own thing, right, trying to stay in shape and train and whatnot. But it'll be interesting to see how many of them get back June 1st to the grind and want to get going. So it's kind of, things are slowly going. You would think so, right?
Especially being in a quarantine, right?
Yeah,
Ready
most definitely.
be unleashed. So again, it was unfortunate. And I don't know if there was some type of rule or something that kind of helped as far as maybe having some type of meetings over the computer, like whether it be Zoom or whatever, with, maybe position coaches or coaches. Cause I do believe that their spring got cut pretty short. So I don't even think they had, they weren't even finishing their spring practice. So, I'd imagine that they probably did get some type of work like that in, but yeah, it's just individual stuff, and I'm sure they have a playbook. But again, it kind of sucks because the fact that we have new coordinators, we have a new defensive scheme, and you'd like to have as much time as possible, and you'd like it to be as routine as possible, and this has been far from routine. So I hope that that it doesn't come back to bite us. That's for sure.
As far as like having some kind of outbreak or something?
As far as, so again, the rule is, so June 1st, they can have the voluntary workouts and everything, right? And I know Syracuse University, they've already announced they're going to have in-person classes, and I think that most universities are starting to open it up like that. But I believe the only discrepancy is that they kind of have to make sure that they are abiding by whatever that said state and governor, the rules that are put in place for coming back and opening back up, right? So that's probably going to be different depending on obviously what college you go to, and who knows what happens between then and now, if maybe some states try to stop it or push it back a little bit further. So you just hope that June 1st is the mark, and we'll get as much time as anybody else, but again, we have a lot of change. So I think it's like we talked about before and in prior podcasts, that just not being able to finish the spring, and just with all this stuff that's just not normal. You just hope that it doesn't affect us too much as far as being able to get on the same page with the coordinators and be able to come back and have a better season than last year.
Well, and we've talked about this with Tyler, and he seems to think it's a level playing field, and that's fair. But I just feel like kind of a team that's kind of behind the eight ball with, like you said, the new coaches and coordinators, it's almost worse for us. Like, I feel like that curve is a little bit more bent for Syracuse football than it is, some of the other programs. But we'll see, and we'll talk a little bit more about football here in a little bit. And good news is everyone's eligible. I saw from Syracuse.com, everybody in Syracuse's athletic teams met the mandatory APR, which is the academic progress rate, and it assesses how well the schools are keeping student athletes, schooling up and whatnot, and make sure they're doing good and getting the right grades and all that stuff. So all of that's good for this upcoming season, which means all of the NCAA teams for Syracuse are going to be eligible for the postseason. That's awesome. And in fact, their score of 987 was the second highest mark recorded since the NCAA began keeping track of this stuff in 2006. So,
oh, nice.
Good. Yeah. Hey, you got to excel in sports, you got to excel in school, right? At least keep a healthy average. Anyway. Okay. So there was news about the transfer rule, Joe. So, Corona kind of threw a wrench in the transfer rule, and we expected this transfer rule, the no-sit transfer rule, to pass. It's the D1 waivers rule, or D1 transfer waiver, which is basically saying that, it was going to go through. We're going to talk about it this year to probably pass for next year, saying that transfers don't have to wait a year to play. So there were some concerns. Jim Boeheim was in this article. This was also at Syracuse.com. And you don't even have to pay for it. So you can go check it out. You can read it for yourself. It's kind of long, but we'll kind of sum it up and give you our thoughts step by step as it was written. So, like I said, we kind of expected this to flow pretty good, but obviously we have a snag. And it's allowed people to think about this a little bit more, right? So as things got slowed down. So one of the thoughts behind the rule for the NCAA is that they're going to be able to clear some of these waivers that they have. There's 700 D1 college basketball players transferred last year. 7. And you got to think about how many applied for waivers. Probably the overwhelming majority, wouldn't you think, Joe? They've got to go through those one by one and accept or decline the waivers, right? So that would help the NCAA. But coaches are worried about a couple things. One of them being basically player poaching, okay? And it's probably somewhat, happening now anyway. And you're not supposed to be able to do this, but let's be honest. I mean, coaches do this. And, they think it's going to be more rampant, right? You're basically recruiting from another team. And we'll get into a little bit more of that later. But, they do this now, Joe. I believe it probably will increase, obviously, since you can get some of these guys right away. You know what I'm saying? And all of these are legit arguments, too. I just don't think they're all legit arguments. I'm still stuck in the mud on it. I hate the sit-out rule. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I think that it's almost necessary. And it's not because of the fact that, it's one of those things where 85% of the kids are doing the right thing and 15% are, and they're ruining it for everybody else, exactly, right? And that's really like kind of the way that I look at it, because there are kids out there that they did get, recruited to a lower school, and maybe they hit a growth spurt, or they get better. They're better than what they thought they were. Steph Curry went to Davidson, brought him to the Elite Eight, right? Look what he's doing now. So that happens. And those kids, if they prove that they're, okay, I want to advance in competition, I'm better than where I'm at, I think that's legit, right? So, again, this could still be a base to base thing, but when it comes down to that, like, again, you're just talking about just player poaching to where kids can just jump.
But they can only transfer once without having to sit out. So if they want to if they transfer once and they can play, they're immediately eligible. They want to transfer again. Now they have to sit out a year. Okay, so you can only do it once.
See, I just think what you do is you expand basically the waivers as far as what you can
criteria.
Do. Let there be, like if there is a situation where a kid's having a problem with the coaching staff or something like that, then let there be a waiver that goes with that, right? Like let there be a waiver for, if a kid thinks that he's better, can you look and say, okay, obviously look at this kid's stats, look at him, he's obviously better than this competition, let's let him go. Like maybe just up that type of thing, but when you got a kid that just wants to go to a better school because of just my whole thing is basically the whole playing time thing. Like playing time thing, if you're not good enough, that's one thing. But playing time, like just because you're a freshman and you don't want to, bust your butt and wait maybe a year or two before it's your time, like that's the stuff that gets me. It's just tough. It's really there's no one right answer, right? It's all going to be pretty subjective.
Right. So, well, you kind of touched on this. Transferring up is another concern. So, will it make it worse? I don't even know if it will make it worse, because the thought behind it is that some of these mid-majors or these smaller schools, they find these diamonds in the rough, and then these kids are like, oh, well, I can transfer to wherever, Louisville or
right,
UVA.
You see a lot of them right now.
I know, but they got to sit out. So obviously, with the
so not as many kids do it,
right? So it deters them a little bit.
Would do it,
yeah, obviously, and you got these coaches in D1AA or these mid-major schools, and they're busting their butt trying. They find this guy, this diamond in the rough, and they're like, oh well, I'm just gonna lose him now. We're gonna be crap. We had this star player, and now he's gone to Duke.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You have a lot of guys that come from those type of schools that make pretty good livings in the NBA, and they can go overseas and make pretty good livings. There's a lot of players like that. So. You don't necessarily have to do that. And by having that sit-out rule, then that at least allows them to basically, if you're going to go transfer up, then you're going to have to think about it because you have to sit a year, right? But that's the question is like, do you punish a kid because he's better than the competition?
No, that's what
You know,
all of these rules
maybe
do
he
is
was-
punish the kids, though. Yeah.
But that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's not because they found a diamond in the rough as much as the kid had a 3-4 inch growth spurt and ended up becoming a monster, put on 40 pounds, 30 pounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of stuff does happen.
And what about, you've got, you got Duke. Duke's bench is deep. Let's be honest. There's a lot of star players on. Let's just use Duke because Syracuse.com used them, and it's an easy example, and everybody can understand.
Right.
Taking the 8th man or the 10th man off the Duke bench, now he can transfer down. So you've got yourself, I don't know how often that happens, but you could do it. It would make that easier too. So,
Again, that happens. You see that. Even with Syracuse, we've had some of those. So a lot of times if you don't get the playing time that you think look, we just had 3 transfers this year.
Yeah. Yeah, some good ones too.
Godine's kind of a lateral move. We still haven't seen really where Jalen Carey's going, but I doubt that Howard Washington's probably not going to be a lateral move. That's probably going to be transferring down to get playing time. So that happens a lot too.
Yeah, and you got yourself some good players in those 2 guys. Well, I don't think Carey, but who knows? I don't know. But still, either way, you got 2 good players right there. 2 good players that have not been picked up. They're still in the transfer portal, and they're there for the picking.
Right.
So yeah,
in my opinion, players like them in their situations, I think that they should have to sit out a year.
Well, explain.
That's
that.
just my opinion.
What guys leaving for playing time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how do you determine
instead of being
who's leaving
okay
for,
with?
Yeah, I know. How do you leave? Well, okay. Yeah, it's obvious, but what if they're like, oh, no, I'm not leaving for playing time. I'm leaving for X. If that's the rule, like if you're leaving for playing time, you got to sit out of here. Well, they'll just find another reason. They'll just skirt around it. It's not going to be.
Right. There's always, again, it's always going to be subjective. So
right,
it's very
exactly.
difficult to one way or another.
Well, it's like with the transferring up thing, you could just say, okay, well, if you're going to transfer up, you do have to sit out a year. Like that could be a rule. But I think that's dumb. That I think it's stupid to only let them, the D1.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things that you can investigate, right? Like how many reasons can you really want to transfer that's going to be legitimate to the NCAA? There's the moving closer to home because of medical situations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
academics, which obviously you can't hide because it's there. If you have problems with the coach, all you have to do is go talk to the coaches, right? NCAA calls the coaches. Do you have a problem with this guy? No, I don't have a problem with him. He's just a whiner because he doesn't get playing time. Right? Like, I'm not saying I'm no one specific. I'm just saying, that's just a...
Yeah.
So, again, there's not too many things.
Because coaches are honest with these guys, too. They're going to be like, look, we can try to hook you up here, but I'm just going to be honest with you, you're not going to get any playing time.
They're honest with certain guys.
Sure.
Like, honestly, I think that was probably a conversation that was with Howard Washington. But in his heart of hearts, he knows that Jalen Carey and Bryson Godine could help us.
Yeah,
right?
I believe
so.
You're right.
It just comes down to the situation.
Those were playing time.
They see
totally.
Joe Girard and Buddy Boeheim and how many minutes they're getting, and they don't see it changing. Therefore, they took it in their own hands because they're not okay making a living off the bench. Which I can understand, but
it's a legit excuse
to me. It comes down to, hey, that's a life decision, and there's nothing you can do about it. You work hard and you try to compete to become just as good as him, or you got to sit out a year.
Or I think it's legit, and like we were saying, you do it. You can only do it once, so you better make the right decision the first time if you got to do it. Limiting it to one time is going to be an influx of those cases, but it's just going to be the same after that. Or
even if it was a situation, maybe you change it to where it's like
oh boy.
As long as it's within the first 2 years, right?
Okay, that's a good one. I like that.
If it's within the first 2 years, you can immediately transfer. Okay, I made a mistake.
Right, and I think there's something mentioned.
Or sorry, did I say that backwards? It could even go backwards.
No, within the first 2, I think would make more sense than the last 2. You should know by the last 2, shouldn't you? Right?
Well, after 2 years, if you, yeah.
No,
I guess it's what?
I think you said it right. I agree with that.
Well, it could go either way depending on what
Well, you
side
can make
of
a
that
case for
spectrum you look at.
either way. Sure, yeah.
Because you could look at it like, hey, go play there for you wanted to sign, go play there for 2 years. If you want to transfer within those 2 years, you got to sit out a year. If you go those 2 years and then after 2 years you realize, this place isn't for me, then you can transfer without sitting out.
Or if you were recruited,
you gave it a go,
right? Or if you were recruited and you were like, we're going to get you some guaranteed playing time. We're gonna this, and this. This is what our plans are for you. And in the first 2 years that doesn't happen, you should still be able to go, right? I mean, that's the other side of the argument.
That's why I said it's both. Yeah, exactly. It's always going to be subjective. That's why I don't think there's a right answer. I really don't. I just think it's one of those things where,
and this is why we're having this conversation, is because these are the issues that they're bringing up, and really, it's still, no matter what, it's subjective. So really, at the end of the day, it's only hurting the players. And here's another one. It was talking about coaches affecting recruiting, because basically that you've got these high school seniors that are competing for other high school seniors for scholarships, but now what they're going to be doing is they're going to be competing with all of D1 for scholarships coming out of high school as a senior. So is it going to really affect recruiting that much? I mean, of course, I think it'll affect it a little bit, but at the end of the day, you could still find if you're good enough, you're going to find a spot to land, and get a scholarship.
A lot of times that works the reverse way, because a lot of times they have the recruits that know where they're going before the transfers at the end of the season and all that, actually figure stuff out, or the graduate transfers, right? So usually it's the other way around, where the transfers kind of wait for the chips to fall, unless you're getting recruited as a transfer, right? You already put yourself in the portal, and the team's going to recruit you as one of their recruits, right?
Yeah.
And they just don't see anybody in the high school recruiting pool that they're interested in. But when it comes to graduate transfers and some of those other guys, a lot of times they wait to see where the cards fall as far as recruiting and all those 5 stars, the players that are assuming they're going to go and just start right away. Then they pick their schools. So a lot of times it goes the other way around. But if they change the rule and it's a free-for-all, then it's 100% going to change the recruiting.
Well, what Jim Boeheim does is in this is already going on. Some of these coaches, especially during all of the sanctions and stuff, you leave a couple of those scholarships open if you can to get that grad transfer, to fill holes where you need to be filled and stuff like that. So there's always high school seniors are always competing for D1 scholarships with people already playing ball in the NCAA. Yeah. So that's always been a thing.
Well, and there's always going to be concerns too, because again, when you bring that up, it's if there were situations where you didn't have to sit out, then there'd be a whole hell of a lot more kids from the lower schools just leaving, because a lot of them probably stay because it's I'm not trying to sit out a year. Right. So,
well, right. That's what we talked about. And it's a deterrent from some of those mid-major schools.
I mean, you get a kid that doesn't turn into a star in a low-level mid-major conference until his 3rd year, then he's not going to go most of them aren't going to go transfer and wait another year. But if you make the wild, wild west out there, where these big Power 5 schools can just pick and pluck all these guys from the lower mid-major schools. I mean, there's a lot of mid-major schools, man, compared to how many Power 5 schools. So, that would definitely, again, you can look at a devil's advocate, is that now you're going to take away the normal D1 scholarships, the kids that would be going to these Power 5 schools. Now those kids are actually going to trickle down to the mid-major schools.
Well, it's
so
almost like
it might help a situation where it helps mid-major recruiting.
It's almost like the minor leagues.
They might lose some of their superstars, but they're getting better recruits.
Right, and it's like the minor leagues for Division I. It's like, well, we could go ahead and just scout mid-major schools for a year, and we'll
that's
pluck
what's
one
going
of
to
these
happen,
guys
right?
out.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, it's going to happen.
And then a mid-major school would never be able to just build up a team to where most of them are seniors and they can make that run maybe in the tournament, right? As seniors, right? That's where you see those teams.
You're going to have a lot of giants to kill. And that's how it's going to be. But
with a bunch of young, maybe better recruits, but younger players, then they're going to realize that they're better than the further competition, and then they're just going to go straight up, like you said.
Yeah.
It would definitely, that's pretty much what this whole article is about, right? Is we're going to groom these 3-star guys that would normally go to you guys, 3 4-star guys. just so that you can come and fuck them a year or two once they groom and become a guy that's ready to start for you in Power 5.
Right. Basically. Mm-hmm. I mean, it already happens now, but like we said, you have to sit out a year. So,
right. Well, that deters tough. A lot of it, I guarantee it.
That is the toughest one for me to justify because I don't want to see schools get hurt. Obviously, you want the UMBCs.
Oh, you need the Cinderellas, bro.
Yeah. So that's a real. All of these arguments are legit, but that one to me is the biggest one of these. But here's one too. And Coach says it's about academics. Coach says, quote, "It's been proven that when you transfer and play right away, you lose credits and you don't graduate on time. Almost everybody that transfers loses 12, 15, 18 credits." So that's what Coach Boeheim said. Now, you still have, we just talked about the academic progress rate, the APR, and you still have that in place, but, you don't want to hurt someone's, academics and guys just getting acclimated and having to work harder to get their academics up and, probably having to work harder to be, a player on the team and this and that. So it can be difficult. Now, I didn't know about that. I never even thought about that. So, I mean, it's another issue. You don't want to hurt these guys. But at the end of the day, you make your own decisions. Yeah. So, and I'm not trying to be harsh about this, but if you don't graduate on time because you play right away, I mean, you can sit out a year if you want. You don't have to play right away.
Right.
So it's kind of like your own decision you make, in my opinion. That's the way I justify it. So, I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I look more at the recruiting than the APR academic, that kind of stuff. I mean, you're sitting out, but you're still going to school, you're still taking classes. But I do understand that you have the periods where you kind of got to make that transition, and you lose a chance to be able to get some of those credits. And I think that's what he was alluding to. But I just don't. Again, I'm all down with understanding the whole trying to make something better, right? Like, okay, we have this process. Let's try to make it better. In this situation, again, with the way the NBA is right now, taking away the one and done rule not allowing them to go straight from high school. Sorry. Right. We talked about it, about how there was going to be a trickle down effect to where now you have these guys that would normally go, and it was a handful, not a lot, but over time we've seen, I mean, that's what allowed the UMBC to beat Virginia, and you've seen these mid-major schools be able to get a lot better and be able to compete better and make further runs in the tournaments. I mean, some of the last NCAA tournaments are some of the best in recent memory. So that's allowed that, and a change to this rule would change that, would change everything, would change the way that everything is as far as college basketball. I mean, I don't know what kind of fan, and again, I mean, fans, they can think their own way because obviously this is a fight between the NCAA and the schools and the players, so who cares what the fans think, right? But, I mean, what would an NCAA tournament be without Cinderellas?
It would be, it would suck to watch a game and go, oh yeah, it's going to be they're going to stomp them.
Yeah.
That's boring.
Yeah, because people, they fill out brackets, they cheer for the brackets, but realistically, if you're a fan, a diehard fan, like you are cheering for your team, and then
but you're
pretty
cheering
much
for every other small school.
Every other small school you want to win all the way to 16s, even though how unrealistic as it was until it happened.
Right.
But that's how it is. And if your team doesn't make the NCAA tournament, then you're in there
still rooting for the small teams.
You're a big fan and you want all the upsets, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, the upsets are one of the most. That's the upsets it's the first 2 days. That's the best part. It's the best part.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
but then when you get those mid majors that go to the sweet, they're like the Elite Eight. They go to the Sweet 16, and then they keep it going, right? Like those type of stories. That's what makes it great too. And we've been able to see those teams have better chances to do that in recent years because of what the rules are now. So I mean, I guess at one point, point do you? I don't know.
I know, but I mean, this is a whole nother conversation. But you brought it up. The and I haven't heard much about this anymore, but the one and done stuff. I mean, they should just if they're talented enough, they should just let them go. It would eliminate a little bit of this. To go hand in hand with this, it would eliminate a little bit of what we're talking about. It would weaken the blow a little bit to some of these issues. So, anyways, you can check that out over at Syracuse.com. So this, I'm sorry, I don't know who wrote it. My bad, I didn't look. So, my bad. I meant to look and I didn't. So, on to some football news. On to some football news, folks. A little bit here. Juan Wallace, linebacker for Syracuse. He's been there the past 2 years. He is going to enter the transfer portal. Speaking of transfer portal. So we wish him luck, Joe. You and I talked about this the other day, and you basically said, there's two reasons, pretty much, mostly, two main reasons why you're transferring. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, in this situation, it's basically you've been there 2 years. The last depth chart, he was nowhere to be seen, and we just happened to change our defensive scheme as far as defense goes, different defensive coordinator, everything like that. So it's either a situation where he just doesn't think he's going to get the playing time, and he wants to go somewhere to get the playing time, or it's just not a good fit for the scheme, our scheme, our new defensive scheme. So only time will tell. We'll wait and see where he goes. If he transfers maybe down low, goes to the MAC or something like that, then maybe it was, for playing time, and he just wants to go and get his playing time. And if he ends up making a lateral transfer to a Power 5 school, then we know that it was scheme. So only time will tell. But again, I mean, I'm excited about the linebackers that we had last year, our freshman class, and getting a year in. So I think this new defensive scheme is perfect for them. I think that they'll make mistakes, but this guy's going to unleash them, and I think that they're going to surprise some people.
Yeah, well, hopefully.
I don't want to get people's hopes up again. They're going to be sophomores, so I said, there's going to be mistakes. Yeah, but
you remember our predictions and everything from last year? I was like 10 and 2. 10 and 2, baby. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So some more sad news. Some sad news, folks. And Syracuse was pursuing. They were pushing pretty hard for Riley Leonard over the past couple months, like 2 months. And he's a 6'4", 490-pound dual threat prospect from Alabama. He received offers from Nebraska and Vanderbilt, Tulane, and Southern Miss. He's a quarterback, and he chose Duke. And honestly, Joe and I talked about this yesterday on the phone, and I just don't care. I know I saw like, especially on Facebook, on the article, Syracuse can't recruit, and it's like, who cares? What we just went through the whole Tommy DeVito is the new football god in Syracuse like a year ago, and now we're already upset that we didn't get this guy. Look, I do think that they need next year they need a quarterback. They need to recruit a quarterback for the 2021 class, in my opinion. Joe.
Well, I mean, usually they say that you got to get a quarterback every year. It's definitely tough when you basically have a starter like this that is pretty much entrenched in the starting position, right? I mean, there's nobody on the roster that's going to compete with this guy, and I'm not saying that to
down DeVito,
down any of these quarterbacks, but DeVito is far and away the best quarterback. He's going to be the starter, as much as the fans they don't want to hear it. Like you said, it's funny. Wasn't it funny the Tommy DeVito ride that we've went on since recruitment and the elite.
Yeah,
being in that quarterback camp and being one of the better quarterbacks, going up to a 4-star.
And some people have been pretty consistent on it. There's been some very consistent people that I know personally and that I know listen to this show.
Came in for Dungy, and people are saying that he should have started over Dungy.
North Carolina game, oh my gosh, remember? Look, let's go back. I'm old enough to remember when you and I came on here and said, I think it's time for DeVito to start. Remember?
Florida State second half.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, we did it. We did it, and I it's not that I regret it, but I was wrong. Tommy DeVito should not.
Definitely were.
Oh yeah, totally.
We ate crow. We ate crow.
For sure. We did. And look, I think just give it time on the quarterback thing. We got 2 years left at DeVito. It's very important, I think, to get someone coming in next year. You don't want to get like some green thumb coming in on.
Yeah.
You
never really know. I mean, I know we got David Summers. He was a freshman last year, and then the two guys we got coming in. I know the one guy is kind of a, unpolished kind of project, and then the quarterback from Texas there who put up those big numbers. We brought in guys, so you never know, right?
Right.
But you always kind of want to try to get some type of quarterback in every class, just to you never know. Again, when it comes to recruiting, sometimes you get them in there, and they just end up being something that you just didn't see. So, but yeah, like you said. It's a difficult situation because this is a situation where you'd love to have like an upperclassman or like somebody like maybe the same age as DeVito is like right there for like a backup. I mean, I guess Rex Culpepper's there. So hopefully he can definitely be somebody that can be counted on because, well,
that's the worst part, right? Like who's Tommy's backup?
Right. Well, yeah, because every year we've had to count on a backup, right? I mean, even last year, Clayton Welch. I mean, that was a wild ride for
for that one game,
a couple of games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get a couple good runs, and then it just passes into the turf, and then a bomb for a touchdown.
I know it was like 96 yards, right? Who was that too? Again, who was that? Who the heck was that?
And
the
crazy
Tristan
thing,
Jackson,
Taj Harris.
That's right. Yeah.
And the crazy thing is that there was people calling for Clayton Welch to start over Tommy DeVito.
I know I know we are the Syracuse fan base is just great. They're great.
It's all over the place, man.
I know it's so crazy.
It's as emotional as it gets.
Yeah. All right, so our good buddy Tyler, Joe, sent a tweet to our group chat today, our group text today, that I thought was worth mentioning real quick from at a David Hale joint, David Hale. And he says, so is there hope for Syracuse? We're talking about football. I'd say there's actually reason for lots of enthusiasm. The Orange will return 4 likely starters, Cervais, Davis, Vortello, and Bergeron. But these guys were only on the field together for just 38% of the snaps last year. So if you look at this, he puts this little chart up between these 4 guys, Bergeron, Davis, Vertorello, and Cervais, and he's got, so they're on the field for 30% of the time, right? And he's got this broken down into 2 categories, all on the field together or any one of them not on the field. Okay? So pressure on the field together, 23.7% of the time. Any one of them not on the field, 33.4% of the time. An increase of 10%, which equals 29% of what it had. So, which I won't get into that third column, but you just get the raw numbers, which you can understand it easier that way anyway. So that's pretty big. That's really big, actually. Yards to drop back. All on the field, drop back 6.24 yards. Anyone not on the field, only 5.36, because he's probably going down or
being pressured.
being pressured.
Running for his life.
Right. On rushing, all on the field, 3.03. And anyone not in the field, 2.1. But here's the big one. First down yards rushing. All on the field. First down yards rushing. All on the field. 6.04. Any one of them not on the field. 3.48. Almost double. Very, well, it's close, but it's quite a big of difference when you talk about yards on first down. So a lot of reason for, you mentioned this, you touched on it earlier about the line and how there is reason that, you don't want to be too optimistic, but there is reason for excitement. And based on this, I mean, look, I'm a stat guy, man. This stats are facts, okay? Plain and simple. And it's right there. So
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going with that as far as the line. I know I was talking about the linebackers a little earlier, and when it comes to the line, getting all those guys back, I think you saw a difference when those guys were on there. When we got rid of Alexander and we kind of moved our line around and brought in Bergeron, you saw a difference in the running attack. And obviously with those numbers, I mean, it pretty much speaks for itself. But I'm pretty sure Mo Neal had, I think, last 3 games of the season, I think he had 100 yards in each one of those games.
Yeah, he did really good in those games. That was when he was closing in on the 1,000.
Yeah, we were rushing. I mean, our rushing yards per game just increased tremendously when we made that move, and it made a lot of fans and people wonder why we didn't make it earlier and why we went the way that we did. Again, it might just be something in hindsight.
We had
that's
Ryan
easier
Alexander
to say,
in
right?
there, right? I mean, you had Ryan Alexander in there, and he was, grad transfer, and he was getting some of the time, and that stuff didn't happen until things got shuffled around, injuries and him leaving and stuff like that. So
right. Well, sadly, I mean, I guess it just came down to that realistically, because the other guy that's not in there is Evan Adams, who was a 3-year starter. He's a senior last year. He graduated. So he actually, I think, got picked up as an undrafted free agent from Baltimore. But
good.
But the other 4 starters are the ones that are mentioned in this graph. I mean, when they had Alexander in there, I mean, it was nothing but it just. You remember, everybody remembers how bad it looked in the beginning and even through the middle of the year. And then all of a sudden we make a change and he leaves and we see a difference. So again, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but it just gives me a little bit more hope than previous. And especially considering that, even though the last 3 games went the way that they went and as far as rushing and in the line, still didn't make a bowl game, and that there was still a lot of Syracuse's offensive line. So there's going to be a lot of pressure and a lot of those guys are going to be hungry to come out and prove that they aren't who a majority of last year's offensive line looked like.
Yeah, I think if anything, it's going to be, I think the cohesion, which Tyler talks about a lot, starts there, and I think it's a good start. Last 3 games of the season, like you mentioned, and I never knew those numbers. And you saw it with your own eyes, but you didn't really know it. Look at it broke down, and it helps. So, yeah, that's the glimmer of hope right there. It was our biggest problem last year. It is a glimmer of hope. These guys are a year more experienced coming into this year. So, not for anything. I mean, it's got to make you feel good.
Well, I mean, you look at those numbers and you wonder if you just started out the season with that lineup, do you make a bowl game? Right?
Well, yeah, it's a good point. Does Mo Neal get 1,000 yards? And does Tyler not lose that bet?
Yeah, he probably does. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's one of those things. In hindsight, it's always easier to say, and in the moment, getting that graduate transfer, it looked like the right thing to do, but it just never really grew in or blossomed into anything.
Yeah. Absolutely. So anyways, there it is. And also, what was I going to say about obviously you'd say, well, we'll just rush on first down every time. Well, obviously sometimes people will catch on to that eventually, but
but that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Absolutely. So we did table the who is on your Syracuse football Mount Rushmore. And I just thought about this, Joe. So, do you want to go over a couple of them? We didn't have time. We didn't have time with James to do the fan feedback on the basketball one. So let's just go over a couple of these. Okay. All right. Are you ready?
Yeah. Sure.
First, do you want to give ours first, or do you want to? This one was a little tough, and it's still a little tough. It's more of a favorite. Well, not. I don't know. I don't know what mine is. Mine's messy. I don't know. I can't explain it as well as I can the basketball one. Let's see. Oops. Oh boy. I'm doing this. We're doing it live. We're doing it live. Hold on. At Matt_Sherman52. Jim Brown, Ernie Davis, Floyd Little, and Waterboy. That doesn't count. You can't say the Waterboy. So Tony's on the list.
Adam Sandler?
Our boy Tony. Let's see. At JSU 2313, Jim Brown, McNabb, Ernie Davis, and Eric Dungy. Now, I know that we talked to Giovanni, and Eric Dungy is Giovanni's favorite player because he got to watch him for the past 4 years, and he's only 16, so since he was like 12, right, or something, or before that, right? Yeah, no, that's about right. That's about right. So that's when you kind of develop that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, for me, it was like Marvin Graves. I loved Marvin Graves. It was great. And then come along McNabb. And you're like, whoa.
McNabb was me.
Yeah.
I remember Marvin Graves. But.
Yeah. McNabb was you. So it's a good list. That's a good list. At Nicole M66, Jim Brown, Ernie Davis, both old school, Don McPherson, and Dwight Freeney. Dwight Freeney's a good one. I had Dwight Freeney on mine too. Just so you know. And we'll go over that in a second. At E.S. Zombek, at ES Zombek, Brown, Davis, Little, McPherson. So a lot of old school there. So a lot of old school, and then you throw in McPherson on that. Okay, I mean the old school like Floyd Little, McPherson, Floyd Little, Jim Brown. Obviously, I mean I don't know how you do this without putting Jim Brown on there, but.
Oh, Jim Brown and Ernie Davis.
And Ernie Davis. I mean, they almost have to be there. Ernie Davis, first black Heisman Trophy winner. I mean,
I'll just give you mine.
You want to so
Jim Brown,
bad. Jim Brown, Ernie Davis, Donovan McNabb, Dwight Freeney.
No, Donovan McNabb, Don McPherson.
Oh, really?
And I didn't get because that was the year where didn't we win the national championship, or we were tied or for
in 52?
We had an undefeated season or something like that.
Yeah.
And Don McPherson was second in the Heisman voting. So
yeah, and it was Tim Brown that beat him, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, Tim Brown, longtime Raider. Love some Tim Brown. Anyway, he came from what? What was
Notre Dame.
Yes, Notre Dame. Oh my gosh. So mine were mine. Yeah, mine. It was. This was tough. So I only went one old school one. Okay. I know it's tough though. It limits you, man. It really limits you.
Again, that's why you got to put parameters on it. My lifetime or history. That changes everything. Okay.
Well, see, mine's already changed since we started this, to be honest with you.
Of course.
I love McNabb, dude. I did. I got to put McNabb on there. Plus for what he did after in the NFL.
Dude, you don't got to sell me. I had him on mine too.
Okay. And then I loved Marvin Harrison, dude. Marvin Harrison was great. And plus what he did after the fact in the NFL. I'm
not basing it off the fact of the NFL.
I know, but he was huge for Syracuse too. I mean, I have to base it off of the NFL just a little bit because when you see a Syracuse player succeed like those two did in the NFL and Dwight Freeney, it's hard not to just kind of glom onto that.
But you have to remember, too, we were like an option team, run team. I mean, there's a reason why Ryan Nassib and Eric Dungy and some of these recent receivers have a lot of these, these records, because we didn't, there was huge plays, but it was option, run, option, play action, boom, big play. Great defense. That's what we were.
Yeah. Well, Marvin Harrison went on to just have a huge career.
Well, yeah. He had Peyton Manning in a crazy offense, but it was something completely different.
Yeah.
He didn't put up any type of, he put up good numbers at Syracuse, but I think Alec Lemick passed him.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. We were a run team. Like our passing and receiving stats,
I love how Joe crazy. Interrupts my Mount Rushmore to just ramble on. It's no big deal. I let him do his, and then I start to do mine, and he's got to criticize it and tell me that mine's inferior to his, and just go on a tangent about why mine's not as good, because if I put Marvin Harrison in there, it just doesn't count because he was just a big play guy once in a while, and so I don't even want to finish now. Thanks, Joe. No, look, Donovan McNabb. I was really torn on. I got to go Ernie Davis over Jim Brown for the reason I mentioned earlier. I mean, just groundbreaking, and we don't know what he would have done.
Jim Brown should have won the Heisman.
I agree with that too. Jim Brown, Donovan McNabb, Marvin Harrison, and I went to Dwight Freeney too.
No, it's good.
Yeah,
it's good. We both picked.
Oh, now it's good. No, it's good.
No, it was good.
I'm just playing with you.
I'm just letting you know we picked different Mount Rushmores based off different criteria. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. So
that's not.
I know, Joe. Stop doing this thing with your hand, okay? Cut it out. Okay. Do we want to go over more of these? We're good. There's so many. You guys did a good job. Appreciate you participating. There was a ton of them. So, and I didn't even get to the. But they went a really long time on Twitter with no Marvin Harrison mentions. A little disappointed. So I had to say something. I jumped on there and said something. All right, last question, Joe. This is it. Let's wrap up the show with this, okay? Oh, wait, no, not the last question. Well, yeah. Is a hot dog a sandwich? I had this argument at work today. I'm very serious. Because if you think about this is a real thing. You know, I'm sure you've heard the argument.
I've heard it, and it all depends on if you want to be technical based upon the actual definition.
Well, hold on. I got another. Well, okay, or technical on what kind of hot dog? Because if you do the Hoffman hot dog in the natural casing, you can't make that a sandwich unless you slice it up. Like you could slice it up and make it a sandwich.
Do you mean what are you talking about? You can't make it a sandwich.
It's a hot dog. If you put a hot dog on a bun, okay? See, everybody wants to get into semantics with me at work. Take a hot dog, any hot dog. You put it on a bun. You put some relish, some ketchup, and mustard on it. I don't know why you'd put ketchup on it, but some people do. If you do that, that's a hot dog. It's not a sandwich, okay? Plain and simple. So everybody's got... Why? Because it's a hot dog. That's why. Okay? You call it a hot dog. You don't call a ham sandwich a ham. Okay? It's a ham sandwich. You don't call it a hot dog sandwich. It's not supposed to go on bread, even though my mom we weren't fortunate enough as children to always have buns. So I did the diagonal on the bread, you know what I'm saying? To get them right. You know what I'm saying?
But the definition of a sandwich is
now Joe has went to the Google machine and now looked this up.
Food consisting of 2 pieces of bread with meat, cheese, or other filling between them, eaten as a light meal.
Bro, a bun should be 1 piece. If you have a 2-piece bun, then there's your first problem right there. Dude, split tops. I mean, hello. What? I don't understand. Why do you have 2 pieces of bread for a bun? That doesn't even make sense. How do you eat a hot dog in a bun that is broken too? Why would you do that? Nothing.
I don't know.
Nothing. It's crickets.
Well, I mean, the way you look at it, it looks like a sandwich, right? It looks like 2 pieces.
Yeah, but it's not. It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So you agree?
Do you consider a hot dog a sandwich? Yes. Anyone who says otherwise needs to look at a hot dog turned sideways.
Sideways?
Sideways.
Look at it side. Why do I have to look at it from a specific angle to make it a sandwich?
Okay, well, how about this?
You've got a lot of criteria.
But what about a sub?
A sub is a sandwich. Or a sub. I can go either way on that. I don't care. I'm not that passionate about that.
Okay, but look.
It's not the same thing. No, it's not the same thing. And here's why.
Time out.
What do you mean why?
You go to Subway. Go to Subway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you have this piece of bread that flaps like this. It's just a giant hot dog bun with meat and cheese in it.
Subway cuts their bread all the way through.
No, it's not 2 pieces, bro. No, it's not. No, they don't.
It's a sub. A sub's a sub then. I'm fine with that.
Then a sub's a sub.
A sub's a sub.
A sub's a sandwich.
Fine. Okay, fine. It's a sandwich. I don't care.
So if that's a sandwich, then a hot dog's a sandwich.
No, wrong. I don't put lettuce on my hot dog.
Lettuce isn't a prerequisite for a sandwich.
It kind of
Sean.
is. It kind of is.
No, it's not. Meat, cheese, boom, done.
You think a hot dog is a sandwich?
Yes.
You do.
By definition.
Hold on a second though. Do you really think that, or are you just saying that because I said a hot dog is not a sandwich and you're just trying to be you, how you always are to me? Just disagree.
No, no. I think
you had to think about that. You had to think about that.
No, I think if you look at a sub sandwich and how it's a one piece, it's basically a giant hot dog bun. So if that's considered a sandwich, then a hot dog's considered a sandwich.
In it?
You can take a hot dog bun and you can put turkey and cheese and lettuce in it, and that's a sandwich. But just because you put a hot dog in it, now it's not a sandwich?
Yeah, it's a hot dog.
Oh God!
If you take a hot dog bun and you put turkey and cheese and lettuce and mayonnaise in it,
what's a Reuben?
Is it called a turkey?
What's a Reuben?
A sandwich.
They don't call it the Reuben sandwich.
The hell they don't.
I don't call it the Reuben. I don't call it a Reuben sandwich.
Look on
if
a
I
menu.
go order it, can I get the Reuben? I don't say the Reuben sandwich.
Look at a menu once in a while. They do say the Reuben. So what? It's still a sandwich. It's 2 pieces of bread.
So why
it's
can't
your
a hot dog
definition.
be a
Hey, it's
sandwich?
your definition. I'm using your definition.
I'm just
2 pieces
saying,
of bread.
You can literally use a hot dog bun to make a sandwich, but just because you put a hot dog in it, now it's not a sandwich?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Why?
Because it's a hot dog. It's not.
What's the difference between a hot dog and bologna?
Not much. Unless you get the net. There he is, folks. He lasted 50 minutes, but there he is. Look, look, unless it's natural casing, then it's not.
I feel like I'm talking you into this.
No, unless it's not. No.
Some bologna has natural casing.
Yeah, and you peel it off. You don't eat it. Liverwurst has a thing on it too. You peel off.
Well, that's just gross.
It is gross. Let me tell you a story. My grandma used to feed me liverwurst and tell me it was bologna. I'm like, oh, this bologna's a little dark. It's really mushy too.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, it's good though, isn't it?
Did you say you're full of bologna? Yeah.
She's like, it's good. You like
bologna.
it though, right? And I'm like, yeah, I guess I like it. It's okay. And then
bologna paste.
And then when I found out what it was, I was like, okay, I don't like it anymore. Yeah, all right, so we agree. Hot dog is a sandwich. All right. Great. Next thing. The race. Did you watch the race last night?
I fell asleep to the race.
Did you? It was a pretty good race, actually.
I do know that I won. I came in 22nd place out of 3,000 people in a DraftKings contest. And
yeah, because you had Kyle Busch, who the DraftKings.
No, I didn't have Kyle Busch.
I thought you put in Kyle Busch. He started way in the back.
No, I put in Harvick. I had Harvick with Jimmy Johnson started 37th, and he finished in the top 10. And who else? William Byron started 34th and finished 12th. I had Reddick, who finished 13th. Christopher Bell finished 11th, and McDowell 17th. So yeah,
I'll take emails or tweets or DMs on who really does care about Joe's DraftKings lineup.
Nah, I'm just letting you know.
I know. I had Joey Logano. He finished 6th. I can't stand Logano, but I gotta switch it up in the pool. I can only choose one driver 3 times. So anyway,
right.
I mean, it's good. And just on the face of it, it's so good to see, even though there's no fans there, to see racing and pit stops and sports. I mean, even if you don't like the UFC, I bet you're watching it type thing, right?
Nah, yeah, there's a lot of people that are, yeah.
Yeah, and so
I mean, I watch it. I like it anyway, but yeah.
Well, I enjoy it too. I just don't pay money for it. Like, I'll watch all the preliminary stuff.
I'm not gonna lie, I did pay for the pay-per-view the other Saturday.
See, well, that's the big thing when bars open up. I got to go bar hopping with the wife. We took the bikes out. I'm fortunate enough to live in an area where we just ride our bikes and go bar hopping, which is great. And we got to watch
By bikes,
UFC.
he means tricycles. But
no,
go ahead.
Bicycles.
Oh.
Beach cruisers. Got a cup holder in there. Got a phone holder. You can, put an adult beverage in there and ride around. It is okay. Can't get yanked on that here. That I know of. I know of. So anyway,
only time will tell.
Anyway, it's outdoor seating only, but it was a beautiful night. They had UFC on, man. That was so good. It was so nice. I was watching some UFC and just drinking a couple beers, getting food. We had been deprived of going out and eating so much that we actually ate at 2 different places and then just drink beer at the rest. Well, I drink beer. She didn't drink beer. She just was enjoying my company. So,
someone's got to make sure you don't fall off your bike.
God bless her. All right, I think that's all we got today. Thanks for
Yes,
if you're still listening right now, you win. You win.
High five.
High fives all around. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate you. We appreciate Armchair Media. Welcome aboard the 9 Club. Welcome aboard Bet Online. Can't wait to get the Bet Online stuff started. Definitely excited about that. So thanks to all of you, of course, for listening. For Joe, I'm Sean. We're out.
Thanks for listening to the
Hot dog
Cuse
is a
Militia
sandwich.
Podcast, the fan's voice with Sean and Joe.
A hot dog is a hot dog. Period.